Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Sue. Thank you to the Clinton Leadership Institute for inviting me as a masterclass presenter today. And a very warm welcome to all the participants dialing in. Many of you know the Clinton Leadership Institute, have attended other webinars. Probably last week was one on negotiation, or you have completed your studies there. So for all the alumni, I welcome you back, and it's good to have you here. For those new to it, I hope you like the format, the online format, and of course the ideas that I will introduce today. In today's masterclass, I'm excited to talk about the topic digital off-road, which is a very relevant and timely matter, given all the accelerated transformation we are all facing in terms of digital business models, but all the online, remote, self-service operations and all the technology-enabled working modes and interactions. So my name is Ulf Bosch, as mentioned. I'm a professor of practice with Queen's Management School. I have been working for 20 years in management consulting with PwC and Towers Watson, and I have studied in Shanghai at CEIBS, China Europe International Business School, and at King's College in London. As mentioned, I serve as a program director for a course called Strategic Change Leadership for Digital Transformation. And if you can see my slides well, on the right-hand side, you see the very beautiful red brick campus of the Leadership Institute. And I hope that we have a chance to meet in person and have a session maybe also there. So, are you ready? Are you ready to go off-road? Okay, let's go off-road. One moment. Before we go off-road, I do have a question for you. Actually, I have 3 questions for you. And we prepared a short poll about these questions. Is your organization, you have it here as well, is your organization embracing digital transformation? Your organization. Secondly, do you feel you are equipped for digital transformation yourself? And thirdly, what is the secret of success in digital transformation? The secret sauce. Only 3 options, so it's not too long. We have 90 seconds. So if you have access to the poll, top of the mind, plug in your results or your answers. By the way, if you dial in from all over the world, if you want to say hello, just type in the chat box from where are you participating, and so we know. Oh, we have the results. Excellent. So they are shared with you. I guess you can see them right now. So your organizations are all very digital transformation savvy. So we have 82% saying, yes, we are embracing it. Probably a reason why you dial in and want to learn what this subject here is all about. Secondly, it's more leveled regarding the how well equipped you feel. So about half of today's participants say yes, but also 40% who say no. And I'm trying to scroll down. That is the very, very interesting part for me. Great results. You say the secret for success, 4% is tech. So So we have 4% here. Organizational agility is where we go, 24%. And we have culture, the overwhelming, like 2/3 of participants says culture. So 72%. Great results. Thank you for participating and for sharing your view. Let's see how that compares to the insights from Digital Off-Road. So about 3 years ago, I was collaborating with Google on a study, and I was quite honored when they approached me and asked me to write a book together. The starting point of the whole thought process was the question Google gets asked a lot, all the time. And this question is, what is the secret of success? Exactly the question we asked. And as a matter of fact, a lot of managers, a lot of other companies are admiring Google nowadays and saying, how did you do it? So they're really interested in what is the secret of success? How can we do it? I personally am always reminded of the 80s movie, The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox, but that's another topic. A hint to the answer is, and it's not tech, obviously. So there was a need to answer this question more in depth, and that's why we wrote the book. I wrote it together with Stefan Henschel and Stephen Kramer. And below there is the original team of the study where we generated some of the insights as well. So Digital Off-Road is actually looking at 8 different W questions. And the first one is, what is the secret of success? It's not tech. What is it? Second one is, why should a company in terms of digital transformation go off-road and leave the mainstream? And the answer here, also a hint, we need to do our own thing. We need to be different, basically. Then the question is, if you go off-road, if you do your own thing, how can you thrive and survive in the digital jungle, in the wilderness? And there's an observation, we need to be healthily paranoid about it. And once in the digital setting, in the digital mode, we need to know where we are going, because on the highway, in the traffic jam, in the mainstream, we know where we're going. But if we do our own thing, if we go off-road, we need orientation, some kind of a purpose, of a North Star. And the second question is, who's getting behind the wheel, who's driving the whole thing, and who's pulling up the sleeves, who's getting dirty on the journey? It's really hands-on, it's do it yourself, actually. And very similar, there are new ways of working, how we operate in the digital environment. So how to perform tasks, what are practices that have worked. Then a very interesting question is, when do we arrive? Has digital transformation any destination or an end, or is maybe the journey is already the destination? We called that chapter The Road to HANA, to SAP HANA, basically, because this road in Hawaii is also leading nowhere, and the road is actually the destination. And then the final question is really, whom for, or what for? The return on off-road, basically. So why are we doing it? Okay, let's have a closer look. In the grand scheme of things, we are basically in a third revolution of mankind. The first one was agricultural, so settle down agriculture. Then all the science and mass production led to the industrialization. And nowadays we are in the digital revolution, or digital era, basically. And some people say it's the most far-reaching one. I'm not sure whether you can compare it, but it's a massive one. Digitalization, just as the definition is, we are converting analog and mechanical electronics into digital technology. We reflect it in ones and twos. And this is also the starting point of the information age, because you can share it widely. And digitalization is really like the growth enabler of the 21st century, mainly because of exponential technologies. So what is this exponential thing all about? You may have come across, it's called law, but it's not a law, Moore's law. Gordon Moore is a co-founder of Intel, and he has discovered a regularity, an empirical regularity, that the number of transistors in a chip, in an integrated circuit, double every 2 years. And this has held true for a long time now, since the 70s. So 40 years, 50 years, it's continuing along this line of his prediction. And of course, Intel has participated a lot in that. So it's good that he came up with this information. But this power of these chips, they help to have exponential technologies, which basically enabled all the internet, the infinite computing, artificial intelligence, all that, but also like organizational, as exponential organizational practices like crowd sharing, crowdfunding, also blockchain is powered by this exponential technology. Now the tricky thing about exponential is it's quite deceptive, because if you digitalize things, you can share them with the speed of light, or the speed of the internet, let's put it like that. And it's free to reproduce. So you double, you double, you double, and nobody recognizes that as long as it is below the full digit. So it's unrecognizable. It's so small, everybody says, oh, forget about it. But once it hits the full digit and then you double, you only 20 doubles from a million-fold improvement away, or 30 doubles here from a billion, or like a billion improvement away in terms of user and in terms of capacity. And that is when the exponential technology really becomes disruptive. It's deceptive at the first, and then it becomes totally disruptive. It takes over. So where do the disruptor and the master of this exponential technologies sit? They are based in Silicon Valley, and they are leading for good reasons, we will see. We all know where Silicon Valley is, at the West Coast, but basically they have built up such a monopoly, a techopoly, that the rest of the world is really just following it. And this is increasing, so they have really a very strong position. But the message of the book, of what we did in Off-Road, is to say, no, 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 we can learn from them. What are the principles? What did they do right? Maybe not everything is right, but they did something right because they're so successful. And go back to our own strengths, because, for example, in Europe, at the time the automotive, the car was invented, or the aviation was invented, it was farming land in Silicon Valley. So we go back to our strengths and become successful on that identity, and then leave the mainstream and go off-road. So what is the secret of success? Coming back to the question, it's not tech, it's mindset. I'm talking to a group here who already is open to that idea. Not all companies are, actually. But let's have a quick look at the Silicon Valley thing. It's a relatively small or condensed area, Northern California, a cluster of technology companies. It doesn't exist too long, though, so the technology and the word Silicon Valley is from the 70s, and it is labeled, or it is seen as the most innovative tech hub in the world. However, they do have a special mindset there, or at least if you arrive there, this is what everybody will tell you, or is telling the entrepreneurs: think big, promise big, deliver big. And they continuously stick to that. I just looked at this this company in the news, like Robin Hood. They're really going, they promise big and deliver big, and it's going in this direction. They also think out of the box, be anything, do anything, a little bit like the American dream. And more recently, they say pivot, pivot, pivot. Eric Ries came up with that, or popularized that. It means stick to your vision, but find new ways, be flexible on your strategy, basically. And pivot, it's what they all say there. Some people say it's a little bit of a stew. So the eccentric, quirky, freakily, gurky, all these entrepreneurs, they flock in here because it's really the environment where they can do what we just saw in the things. And this is a quote, so I did not want to be offensive about, but it's how they see maybe themselves. So what are the fundamentals of Silicon Valley? We can summarize that quite quickly. Education plays a major factor. So Stanford University is there, and they have a great thought leadership. Financial resources, a lot of like the billions in venture capital are on Menlo Hill or Menlo Road, and all these entrepreneurs are already there. So all the big companies, if you look at the really the SAP, the top companies are all based out of there. Talent magnet, a lot of people want to work there, go there. They flock from all over the world, go there. The value creation is phenomenal. And many of them have a very noble, or at least they claim that, purpose for their company, like making knowledge available, put a PC or a laptop in every house, best price for the customer, like Amazon and so on. So they go for improving the society. However, we can not criticize that, but demystify it. And they do it themselves, they know that. Actually, education is not the big factor because the valley is not producing their own talent. It's coming from outside. Venture capital is available somewhere else as well. So you get that in London, in Berlin, in Lithuania, in Tel Aviv. You get venture capital. You don't need to be there in order to get it. Regarding the entrepreneurs, a lot of these very successful entrepreneurs are quite special, like Steve Jobs and others. So yes, it's a special breed. However, not all who are going there become billionaires. Actually, they earn more. It's 40% above the average income level of the US, but also the living costs are 60% higher. So you go there, but the majority of people are not better off then. Regarding the valuation, you may remember when Facebook bought WhatsApp. At that time, I think they paid like 19 or 21 billion US dollar and no revenue and hardly 100 people. So where are the fundamentals for all these valuations? And regarding the purpose, a lot of these social media companies and also Google, for example, they offer their services for free, but it's not free. They sell the user to the advertising industry, and that is the concept what they are doing. So it's a little bit demystified, but where's the success coming from? And it's coming from the mindset actually. So here is Sam Palmisano, who's really a turnaround manager, very bold of IBM. He really led them into consulting and the service industry and get rid of the ThinkPad, sold it to Lenovo. So he said, the culture is the difference. Makes you a winner or loser, it needs to be values driven. We need to have a look at what kind of values really makes you a winner or loser in that context. Talking about culture, we we have often hear a very famous quote by Peter Drucker, who's like the father of modern management. And again, this looks like a film, I think. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. That's what he maybe said or maybe not said. But the message is a strategy is very important. It can help you to win customers, to push the customers to you, but actually a culture helps you to pull them in, to keep them in the long run, because the culture is all about how you interact with your customers, how you interact with your employees, how you develop products, how you work together, and so on. So this is really the powerful thing. Some people say it's a competitive advantage, and they go even beyond that. They say it's the only sustainable competitive advantage. Only sustainable competitive advantage, because all other advantages can erode, can be copied. Even people can leave the company and then be somewhere else. So you don't have really things you can protect, but culture can hardly be duplicated. There are a few other competitive advantages which can hardly be copied as well, but culture is one of the very strong ones, and it impacts the bottom line. Oops. So here's like a value tree. Culture through the customers, culture through the employees and the branding and so on leads to valuation. However, if you talk about a competitive advantage, we need to differentiate on that. It can't be what everybody has. Now we have a look at, and this gap is identified by many companies nowadays. So if I'm talking to companies, they often say, hey, let's have a look at these 3 dimensions which we had in our poll, which we have here actually. So we have this triangle, and a lot of companies are saying, yes, the requirements from digital transformation, it has technical requirements, but we are not so far away. So the company as is, we are even beyond that. We are quite good in technical, in adopting these technologies or introducing them. However, in terms of organizational agility, we are lagging behind, and the requirements are quite high from digital. And the biggest gap is in culture, from the as is to the to be. And the results of our survey shows that the awareness is there. Culture is very, very much important. It's very important. You also mentioned your companies are embracing it, so the gap in your companies is smaller. But that is what we usually are seeing. The cultural gap is the biggest. So why should we leave the mainstream, and how can we differentiate actually? We did some research in the context of Digital Off-Road, because we said the tech companies are very specific, but how about the rest of the companies? So we had a look at the FTSE 100, the DAX, the German top indices, the French one, and the Swiss market index. And we found out that all these companies they're successful and they have a strong culture. However, these values, these cultural values, are all along the lines of like eight values. It's like safety and well-being, sustainability, integrity, diversity, inclusion, respect and trust, collaboration and accountability. It's going performance-wise, performance, operational excellence, learning and development, and innovation. We can cluster them, and I do that with all values to have a well-rounded cultural set of values. So how do we treat each other? Very important. How do we work together? We can treat each other very nicely, but we don't work together. So it's a separate one. How do we achieve our goals? Yes. And how do we develop ourselves further? So these values are dominant, but they are, let's put it like this, they're all the same. And one of our authors said, oh, it looks like they have copied themselves. They copied themselves. They said, oh, let's put this in. Let's put this in. The message or the discovery here is none of these values are bad. They are very, very noble, very good. but it doesn't fulfill the purpose of being differentiated. And now have a look at the exponential companies. They have a very strong purpose. They embrace obsession. Obsession is not a good word normally, but they're obsessed with customers. Obsessed with customers. You hear that all the time. Amazon, Tesla, obsession with customer. And they are open to conflict and dissent derived from that. They are hungry. They go for simplicity. We all know Apple, simplicity. Speed. I think Facebook once said, go fast, break things. We're jumping. Decisiveness, distinctiveness. They take a lot of risks and let's try. On the other hand, the more mainstream linear companies, they said, we want to be accepted. We need acceptance. As a company, we want to be accepted. Yeah, it's legitimate to want that. But they also want consensus. So they build consensus internally. However, in the end, everybody is accountable for it. And if they don't go for their goals and build the consensus around it, everybody agrees, no, we didn't succeed on that. They are fixed to the status. They want excellence, standard, compliance, stability, optimization, and certified expertise, which means if you want to work for one of these companies, you need to bring your diploma. Not so with the Silicon Valley companies, oftentimes. They even like skip school, skip Harvard or whatever, and become a startup. Both of these sets of values are not obviously better than the other. However, if it comes to digitalization, one is actively mobilizing towards digitalization, make it happen, and one, and that's unfortunately the result of it, has a passive resistance inherent to it, because all of these values, which are okay and have been successful in the past, they lead to a passive resistance, and you block it on different level of your company. So what is Silicon Valley doing? And Grace Hopper, she's the queen of code. I think she helped to invent a COBOL language, and she said, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. And that is actually how Silicon Valley, they're not going for legitimacy, they go for, they don't ask for permission, basically. And here's an interesting question by an investor and former PayPal CEO. He's asking for something very special. He says, tell me something that is true, nobody agrees with you. And this is a premise on which he invests his money. And he's quite successful. He invested $500,000 US in Facebook and got back 1 billion. So he's one of the kings of Silicon Valley. But he's looking for something special, something nobody agrees with. And the indication is contrarian truth, he's calling that. The values they are pursuing are values not everybody agrees to. They go off-road with that. Let's have a look. Google is like our experiment here. And Larry Page once said, and you know that, don't be evil. It was unfortunate, I think, but what he wanted to say is, we don't care about evil or not evil. The yardstick is whether we do good for our users. And that is what we are doing. We go for our users. We focus on our users, everything will follow. And imagine that Google, nowadays, everybody is giving standing ovations and saying, hey, these guys are great. But for 15 years ago or 10 years ago, they were like scanning all the books, which obviously was not, you could not do that. Or they were like filming on the streets with Street View. And somebody must have done that. And a lot of people have done it. And they need to believe at something. And they believed in, hey, we do that for what we want to achieve, maybe also for their benefits, but they didn't care, basically. And nowadays, they get forgiveness for that. Similar things with Facebook, moves fast, break things. He tried to explain it. Yes, we need to go faster and we don't pay attention to all the risk, because probably we wouldn't do what we are doing or we have done. And Apple is also a candidate for that. They go for simplicity, they go for think different. So they have very edgy or very different values. One other thing that is obvious, we call it underdog, or the outsiders, the outliers, the rebels, but in a positive sense. But this is a little bit of the mindset they bring to the table. They're saying we are fighting against the overwhelming odds. So Apple back then, he said, we need to fight against IBM, because they try to make it, try to shape the PC industry, and we need to be the counterbalance. Very noble purpose. And because of that, they have the permission to do things others don't have permission to do, basically. And this is an important thing. They don't care in terms of social risk. And social risk is like social approval, what others say. They did not care in the beginning to do that, because they had this noble purpose and they consider themselves the underdogs. What they also do is stretched goals. Interestingly, stretched goals, and they have names for it. So Jim Collins, he wrote the book Built to Last and Good to Great. He identified the big, hairy, audacious goals. So these are ones which are very compelling, everybody can rally behind. It's basically what Google is saying, we need to have moonshots. The moonshots, we go for the moon. And what Google is also doing is pursuing the principle of 10x. They say, we want to have innovation, but not on an incremental basis, but it needs to lead to a 10x increase in what we are doing. It needs to be like exponential, but they call it 10x. It's quite a powerful thing. That's how they plan their new, where they invest in, sorry. And Larry Page of Google said one time, a big part of my job as a leader, as a CEO, is to make people aware that we don't go incremental. We go for these moonshots. How can we go for that? It takes conviction. And Henry Ford, he's not from Silicon Valley, from a totally different age or revolution, actually. But he once said, whether you think you can do it or whether you think you can't, both times you're right. And that leads us to the matter of self-perception. And there is research conducted which indicate that the best predictor, one of the most powerful predictor of performance is self-perception. And if you look at companies, they say, yes, self-perception is good, confidence is good. This is how we build this confidence. And they do it like this. They say, we are very solid, we perform well. And once we performed well, this results into confidence. Same with education of children. You build the confidence in that way. However, if you look at the Silicon Valley, it seems it's the other way around. You have the confidence and you generate the performance. It's the other way around. And there's also research that has been done in the sports, in physical education in sports. So the professional athletes, they go for this. The confidence breeds performance. So it's exactly the other way around, contrarian truth in that. So let's have a look at the companies, how they're doing, because economic validity, if they are not successful, if they all get like broken up and disappear from the markets, we don't need to look at that, but they are quite dominant. And the Financial Times called it a techopoly, these companies. And during the lockdown, for example, you can look at these companies, and I'm working with all of these companies, with products of all of these companies during the lockdown, or which is now our new normal. With Facebook, I order stuff with Amazon, I have the Teams on my I have like Hotmail and all the YouTube, Apple products here, Google. So they are full service suite. They do everything we currently need, and the valuation is great. It's trillion. It's not billion anymore. It's trillion. So Apple beyond 2, Amazon, Microsoft beyond 1.6, Alphabet 1 trillion, Facebook 1 trillion. They are actually bigger than the indices I mentioned, like the FTSE, like the DAX. One company, Apple, is bigger than these all companies together. And now we are looking at another up and coming company, not so much, it's huge. It's Tesla. And the shares grown phenomenally. And this company can now, with its valuation, easily pick up all the rivals, which really were dominating or were really the hallmarks, the mavericks in the industry. And I worked with many of these companies, but suddenly here the exponential company is coming along, and it's really becoming a big issue. Elon Musk said himself, don't just follow the trend. He often referred to a physical approach and says, do the first principle thinking, go back to that. Think about your own identity, your own strengths, and go from there, and then become successful. So now this is exactly what going off-road means. You need to go off-road. And if you go off-road, what is it that we need to pay attention to? And in our research, we said, or in our book, we said, we need to be healthily paranoid. Healthily paranoid, which means you pay close attention to what is happening, because we learned in the beginning, or we brainstormed on that, you need to pay attention to exponential before it becomes disruptive. And this is quite difficult. And paranoia means, in that respect, you pay close attention to everything that is going around you. The problem a little bit, you pay more attention, you worry more, and then you pay more attention. It's like a vicious cycle. However, in order to survive, that's quite beneficial. And it was also coined by Intel, Andy Grove. He said, complacency is the problem. A lot of companies based on success, they are complacent. And only if they stay paranoid, they can survive. Let's have a look at a quote of a participant in our Queen's Chief Executive Club, Vincent Roche. He from Analog Devices. He said, companies need to sense the change and respond to it. If they don't do it, they will lose out. So it's basically the classical adaptation thing. You have environmental change, and you have organizational adaptation. And if it's aligned, that's pretty good. Rate of change over time. If it's aligned, the two lines, then it's good. But often what we see a similar gap as in our spider analysis. And the final stage is either transformational change, or the miss. This is not really, a lot of managers have talked about it. And one of the famous managers is Jack Welch. He was once labeled by Fortune magazine the manager of the century. And he says the change inside need to correspond to the change outside. Otherwise, the end is near. Interestingly, he was at the helm like 10 years. But when he left and his successor took over, what happened is this icon, this really admired company, GE, went down. So the downfall of an icon. So GE was the highest valued company, but actually the successor, Jeff Immelt, he tried to become a digital company, digital industrial company, and also the Internet of Things. He wanted to step into that or tap into that, but it didn't work. And it was a big conglomerate, complacent in a big way. And then Forbes titled GE is a total leadership failure. And actually 2018, it got kicked out of the Dow Jones, which is like a huge embarrassment for such a company. So this happens with complacency, and that's why paranoia is absolutely needed to survive. Jim Collins wrote the book Built to Last, and he really said, yes, these companies will last. But if you look at the Fortune 500 companies, only 10% remain. And a lot of this destruction will continue because that is only 2019, maybe 2020, we can strip some more of these companies out there. They call it Schumpeterian, the Schumpeterian destruction, like the creative destruction of the digital age. And this is a very big development. Here, this is Cisco, the CEO, former Cisco CEO. He said 40% of the businesses will survive. Let's have a look what happened to the mass market. And we probably all know these examples, but it's important to understand that this is really there must be a sense of urgency at the companies if that is happening. So Uber has no cars, Airbnb has no real estate, Facebook has no content probably, photo company, Instagram, no cameras, and television, a similar thing with Netflix, and inventory, Alibaba has no inventory. So this is how we are moving forward. And it's only a matter of time when a big company, service company, has no employees. It's called on-demand workforce, high-skilled freelance economy. It's interesting, and we need to pay attention to that, because if you are Hilton or Marriott and now sitting with all your real estate and or Hertz, like a car rental company, went bankrupt, it's really shifting the economies. And these companies didn't exist just a short while ago. What's happening now as well, and this is 2020, we had startups. But in 2020, there was a big jump in new registration of startups. Big jump. Of course, all of these are not Silicon Valley startups. That's true. The thing is, with the exponential technologies, so much new business models are possible, and actually a lot of great companies have been born in the crisis, in the recession. So a wave, let's call it, it looks like a wave already here. A wave is coming. So this is like the traditional business, linear business, and a digital wave is coming in. And it's important to see that wave. And Jim Collins, again, said, I'm scared, paranoid about what we completely missed. And here's a saying that says, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And that is exactly the modus in the digital era, because otherwise we don't see the iceberg. And I think Titanic was built in Belfast, so always a good reference. It was perfectly built, but there was a managerial, it was complacency, it was hybris. So the Titanic sunk because no countermeasures were taken. And actually there was a big disconnect, and this Nobel Prize winner said, don't you think you're just rearranging the deck chairs? So a lot of companies are not accepting the iceberg coming, this kind of exponential technologies and business models. And they say, okay, let's shift around, let's do a digital twin, let's do a little bit of transformation. But in the end, they are happily disconnected from really the signals that are coming through. And that wasn't a good recipe, at least for the Titanic. Now, one thing that can be done, and some Silicon Valley companies did that, and we're going back to Moore's law and also Andy Grove, they often come, or they several times they came in a very difficult situation, and said, hey, what can we do now? What can we do now? And there's a concept called revolving door. I think they were sitting in the office and saying, hey, what's happening now? And they said, probably the board will kick us out as CEOs. They say, hey, the company is not at the place the board wants to see it. And they said, okay, let's adopt a different mindset. Let's say if we get kicked out from our position, what would our successor, the new CEO, do? And the thing is, Moore said, yes, he would take us out of memories. It was at that time the memory business. And Eddie Groove said, yes, let's go out of this door, come in again and do exactly what somebody else would do. And this is a great method to say, let's leave all what we like, inertia, all the reasons why we can't do it behind, just do what we do next. So this is one from the off-road. Let's have a look at the purpose. If you go off-road, you don't have the street signs anymore. And you need something like a North Star. And these technology companies, they have this purpose and say, okay, we follow our purpose no matter what other things. And there is also like a concept how you can find out what kind of purpose they have. And we probably all know Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's coming from really like survival to safety to belonging to self-actualization. So I need to realize myself or do what I need to become. But the thing is, there's a pyramid above it, and Robert Barrett cultivated that. He says very similar things like Maslow, but then he says we go for community, and we go for making a difference, like legacy, and then service to the society and the bigger community. And this is a little bit where the tech companies are playing. So very similar, but they going beyond, because self-actualization can often be like, I win in competition and other will lose at that. And this kind of purpose is more win-win and expanding the value for others as well. It's just like a comparison of Maslow, and the purpose needs to be up there. Here's a quote that it's all purpose-driven. And a lot of companies can have a robust look at what is the purpose of their companies nowadays. I have a few nuggets regarding how the management works in the off-road area. And this manager here, he's chilling, he's relaxing, but he's also showing two hands here. And the two hands, it's about ambidextery. It's difficult to pronounce, really. So it's a concept that you can do two things equally well with both hands, And this is something, it's important to adopt new technology, adopt the transformation. The right hand is looking for emerging business, more creative, more empowerment. The left hand is more the bread and butter, the existing business. And you need to bring that together. If you play only with one hand, you are missing, or it's underdeveloped, the other hand. So it's really important to go for that. You have the dilemma of exploration and exploitation, and you can design it like this. Exploitation means your current business and its consistency, it's short-term, more short-term, internal focus, you give direction and stability. The other one is more exploration, like looking for the new ones. It needs to be accepted as coexistent to the other, not consistent. Consistency means you only accept one business model, but you need coexistence. You go long-term, external focus, empowerment, agile adaptation. So you go from two monodexterities to ambidexterity, and that is sustainable growth. And this is all the companies needs to do in order to get there. Maybe they need this revolving door to really do the left hand, but it's really important issue. The other one is failure. And this is from San Francisco. So if you ride a bicycle in San Francisco, it can go wrong. It can go downhill, and you can crash. And it's important to have a positive attitude to failure. However, many people say Silicon Valley is nearly obsessed with failure. You do fail fast, fail often, fail better, fail forward. And it's probably not true that failing is fun or is good. So, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in many respects. If you expect to fail, it's not a good thing. However, the good thing about this culture is you get feedback, you can adapt, you focus on your strength next time, and you become resilient and bounce back. The mantra there is failing is accepting, but giving up is not. And very close to the failure culture is psychological safety. And Facebook Sherry Sandberg said, what would we do if we weren't afraid? And what she's saying is, there's a study by Google HR. They said, if somebody feels psychologically safe, so you're not blamed for mistakes, you're not scapegoated, you can let down your guards, you can be yourself in your workplace, then performance is up 70%, and the person who is feeling unsafe, 90% lower. Creativity is up, curiosity is up, stepping out of the comfort zone. Another one that helps to lower this fear and this gives psychological safety and just identification is the dress code. And Silicon Valley has a saying, they don't want to become dad's company because they want to attract the new generations. They want to attract the new generations. So they're also paranoid of becoming dad's company because all the fresh talent, the young talent, don't want to work for the company their father could have worked to. And this is very different from other places in the world where you say, my family worked there, I go there as well. But it's different, and it's part of this dress code culture. And what we are seeing in digital transformation nowadays, people are dressing differently. So, and if you have a company which is very conservative, you're on stage and look you don't feel accepted here. So companies are going more into this relaxed and more Silicon Valley style. This is from TransferWise, a startup or quite big company in London, and you can even nap here in the tent. So this is the way forward. All the companies maybe look like this in the future, and the T-shirt is the new suit, basically. The T-shirt leaders, like in California, they swapped the suit and the tie with the casual look, like a casual Friday the whole week. So there's a lack of status. That's a problem, and a lot of people can't let go, or they say by dressing differently, like having a jeans and sneakers and so on, this already makes us agile, and that's not true because it doesn't. It's just like a symbol, and we should not make a mistake. It's not about playing table tennis. And I work with Google. They have all the table tennis and all this stuff, but it's not. It's a really, really driven, performance-oriented environment. And once you get blinded by everything is casual, no, it's very, very fast and focused. Google has the principle you can be serious without a suit, and you should not sound like one. You can wear one, and wherever you go, you choose your dress according to the occasion. All right, and it has a financial aspect. Again, we go back to the investor. He says he did not invest in this company. Executives are running around wearing suits and ties. This was a huge red flag because real technologists wear T-shirts and jeans. never invest in the tech CEO that wears a suit. And the same is true in a job interview nowadays. So this is, some dismiss it and say, hey, what got appearance is not important, or the dress code is not important. Here the investor says that, and he's so powerful in terms of investing for a reason. Okay, conclusion, why do you dare to leave the mainstream? Summary, of course, digital transformation is going ahead. Nobody cannot be impacted. Mindset, not tech, is important. Unique, it's important to have a unique set of values, maybe not everybody agrees with. Healthy paranoia because of the exponential technologies that are coming up, and the purpose, you have a strong purpose to do it. Ambidexterity is important, failing culture, psychological safety, and the dress code is also quite significant. It has consequence, or it has a meaning, and we are changing the perspective here by the revolving door. One saying, also a CEO, a former CEO of Google, even Silicon Valley is overwhelmed by the speed of change today. It's important to understand the principles, and that is what Digital Off-Road and what I presented is all about. It's about, we need to change the way we think, and the rest will follow. That's for now. Thank you. I open the floor for comments and questions if you have time.
We have time, Ulf, and thank you so much. That was really wonderful. I'm sure everyone that's joined this morning will agree. That was a really comprehensive run through of digital transformation and really the necessary changes that companies need to apply if they want to stay relevant and keep the pace with change and growth and seize every opportunity. For those of you that can stay on for questions, we have had some questions in from the community before the event began. So we have LinkedIn, if you're following us, the William J. Clinton Leadership Institute on LinkedIn. We have events page, and we did ask some questions on that during the week. So Ulf, we have the first one: how can organizations overcome resistance to change? How can they embrace digital transformation?
Yes, that's basically quite a broad topic, and we did not went into the nuts and bolts how we can overcome this kind of resistance to change. But it's two things: a matter of changing the mindset and the behaviors, basically. And one can be done by defining this kind of what are our values, and operationalize that. You can do that in specific situations. Say we want to behave that, or this is where our values come true. And the other thing is you go for like change management. If we say that we really need to change behaviors in terms of involving people, in terms of communicating, in terms of enablement, and also the measurement system needs to be aligned to how you can overcome. And then you have a tipping point where the whole organization is going in that direction, because otherwise you can't see this development clearly, or you can't you don't accept it as the thing to go for.
Yeah, so it has to have the leadership buy-in as well, Ulf, to really carry it forward.
Absolutely. Yes.
Definitely. The next question really feeds on from that. So it's about the cost of digitalization, and you know, we've got many small to medium enterprises in Northern Ireland and across GB and around the world, and many startups that you mentioned will of course not be resource rich. So in terms of a company digitalizing and transforming themselves, how do they do that? And what would the cost?
That's a good question, a good perspective on it. Basically, the digital transformation has to be expensive, because we're going into digital, and once things are digital, you can reproduce and share it freely. So it's the way to go. Will save money, definitely. And most companies who are introduced or go through a digital transformation, they have a very clear formula. They say we want to save 50% of our costs and we reinvest 25% of our costs. So we still save 25. So the business case behind is always like we save a lot through digital transformation. And that is actually what I recommend here.
Excellent, excellent. Ulf, just a question that's come in through the chat. Society is beginning to push back against the big tech companies. Who do you think will win this battle?
Oh, wow, a very, very good one. A very good one. I can't predict, and I don't want to be like the person who's saying who's right and wrong here. I'm just observing what's happening, and I think the technologies they provide, they are so expanded and they cover so many areas of our life. They can't. If you try to limit them, it's like the last battle in a lost war. I think it's moving in that direction, and blockchain technology will make a big difference how we deal with that, actually.
Yeah,
I can't really touch. Yes.
Great stuff, Ulf. Ulf, we're almost out of time, and I know that some of our attendees need to hop off and attend other meetings and things. So thank you so much. It was a really wonderful, fast-paced run through digital transformation, and really the giving some really valuable tips as to what we can do ourselves as employees and participants in today's society, but also the bigger picture for organizations, how they may want to look at their own behavior, cultures, values, and then implement a really different mindset to bring their companies into the next level of change that we can all anticipate. So Ulf, there are another couple of slides, if you wouldn't mind just moving forward to them. So if you've enjoyed Ulf's presentation this morning, please do join us. You can go off-road with Ulf. You can get some really direct, unrivaled attention from Ulf, and he will take you through the various elements of digital transformation. He features on our senior executive program beginning in about 3 weeks' time, and he also does headline our own digital transformation, strategic leadership for digital transformation at the Leadership Institute. So you'll find all the information on our website. And then moving on, we have another masterclass. It's on the 2nd of March, Rethinking Education, featuring executive education experts, Dr. Wilfried von Hacker, Andrew Crisp, and our own executive director, Laith Dajani, talking about some of the changes that we've discussed this morning and how that will impact all of us with the world of work and the future of executive education. So please do look out for that on our website, LinkedIn, and we'll be sharing it with you as well. So just to wrap up, thank you so much for joining us. Our pleasure to have you this morning. Love to hear your thoughts. Connect with us on Twitter and LinkedIn, and hope to see you at one of our events again soon. Have a great day.